Hey, um, this is great. I'm so glad to be here. I'm so pleased to have you both here with me. Anyone that's tuning in, I'm pleased to see you too. Um, so the reason we're here for this chat, I feel the past year has been really demanding for any business really, but hospitality in particular has had a really rough time of it. I don't think we've had time to catch our breath. At the same time, I feel aspects of the business have been in hibernation, and particularly, these two lovely ladies here have been working so hard and sort of out of, public view. We've been closed, also due to restrictions, and there's not been that time to shed a light on what you've been doing behind the scenes. So I really wanted to make sure that since this week has been marked by International Women's Day as well as International Women's Collaboration Brew Day, that we do sit down, take this moment, appreciate how long you've been with the company, hear what you've been doing, hear about your work this past year, and also what it means, like what your work means to you, and to champion you over not just today, but in future as well, but to bring to light what you've been doing for the business, and also as individuals. So I'm going to quickly introduce myself for anyone who doesn't know me. I'm Natasha. I do the social media and marketing at Mother Kelly's, and I'm going to let these two introduce themselves and take it from there. Nika, go first.
Hi. Sorry, I'm Nika. I work as a data and e-commerce manager for Mother Kelly's. I've been working for the company for 4 years now, happily.
Woo! That's great. I kind of feel weird bumping over to Ree, but Ree, your turn.
Hi, I'm Ree. And I am the People and Development Manager for Mother Kelly. So I do a lot of the kind of HR-based role and elements of training, hiring, etc. And yeah, I've joined the company, well, first week of April this year, it'll be 6 years. So been going for a long time. And I would, woo! I started nearly 6 years ago just as a part-time bartender. And yeah, just worked and pestered until I got into HQ doing my office-based role, and I've been doing this for about 4 years now.
I know that I'm really grateful to have met you both during the pandemic year. I think it's one of the highlights, along with, just some of the great things that have come out of it in terms of community and people kind of bonding together, rallying together. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed, particularly on Monday just gone, was International Women's Day and the International Women's Collaboration Brew Day. It's something that I've always been part of for maybe 5 or 6 years. And it means a lot to me. I used to work at breweries, so I love the chance to get back onto a brew kit. And I think, just all the women that come together on that day, just to see an example of what force they can be reckoned with. And yeah, so just while I bring that into the forefront of our minds, what does International Women's Day mean to both of you, and what do you look forward to it each year? Nika, do you want to go first again?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think International Women's Day wasn't for me like a very important day, but I've noticed like in the past couple of years, like it sort of assumed like a lot more. I started recognizing the importance of it and the necessity of it, because it does highlight like all of the achievements of all women, like throughout like of all time. And I think it's really, really important. Like it is something that makes us feel empowered, and that gives us really like the chance of like shine. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
And Ree, the same question to you.
I mean, Kiki's answer is great. I kind of feel quite similar with the way that I think International Women's Day has only really been something properly on my radar since I've been working for Mother Kelly's and in the craft beer industry. But I think my favorite part of it, the bit that I enjoy the most, is the kind of celebration of it. It's the kind of, it's raising women up, and we're just praising the good work that women around us and women in history as well have done to kind of build us up to this point, and kind of put a little kind of pedestal under all of those women that have worked so hard to build independent business, and like work hard like in their motherhood and in their careers and in so many different ways. And I just love that kind of sense of community of like all of us coming together and celebrating one another in lots of different ways, and just kind of being proud about it, and just having fun with it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I definitely think those are all the things which hit home with me every year. I'm also, aside from my work at Mother Kelly's, I'm also co-founder of Crafty Beer Girls. So, growing that community and having those women come to the brew day is really important. And I think what was really special this year was the fact that we actually got to collaborate, even though we weren't brewing in person, we collaborated on making a recipe with the great folks at Cloudwater. And what really touched, which was really touching, was the fact that Nike jumped on getting those beers in. I know that, it's been a pretty tricky year for trade and also sourcing beer. So just, the fact that specials are quite hard to come by, or they sell out really quickly, especially if they're brewed somewhere else. I know a lot of beer does make it down to London, but I think this year it has been a bit harder to get beers which aren't locally produced, just because everyone's scaling back their production. So because you've done such a huge part in getting the cool stuff in, and also updating our sales platforms, they're looking so snazzy. What are the beers that you've picked out for us? Do you want to speak a little bit about them? I can model. I've got some of the cans here to model. So run through them, and I can supplement with anything I know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a crazy year. A lot happened. I'm really pleased with the changes that we made, because I think that they would make our business work more efficiently, and possibly make the life of the staff a little bit easier. But in terms of choosing beer, you are correct. It's it's so difficult for so many breweries now, in the industry, for with whatever happened. It's just everything changed in a way, and a lot of changes are to come, a lot more changes have to come. And so I think that I did dedicate a lot of my time trying to find always new interesting beers, but at the same time it wasn't just my effort, it was definitely a team effort. I couldn't have done it on my own. And I think that some of the breweries we got beers from, they're just breweries that we've been working with for years now, and so we tried in a way to support them as well as we could. And so I think I could name so many, but on the top of my head, I guess there's been I don't know, Weapon True, Orbit, Kernel, Yonder, Duration, Double Barreled, so many. It's as well. There's another brewery that's Excel that we worked with for a while now, really. We used to pour they pale ale as one of our house beers in the tap rooms and the bottle shop. And actually in occasion for the International Women's Day, they did brew a beer that's called Apple, which was brewed by the females that part of the Excel team. And I've got it here too. Yeah, that's really good. And they brew this beer in solidarity for the International Women's Day, and it's peach and honey saison.
Yeah.
And it's really, really flavorful. It's got like really nice like intense notes of like honey and peach, and it was brewed like with Excel's House Belgian yeast, which sort of gives it like quite dry finish. So in all, I'd say like it's quite like a complex but balanced beer. And as well, like one thing that's really nice of them, like that they've done with this beer, it was to they will like support an organization. It's called Young Futures, which is basically an organization that supports like young women between like the age between like 16 and 21 years old, that have experienced like trauma like in their lives. And so it's also really good on them to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad I picked up one as well. I really love the artwork as well. I know it's a collaborative effort, the whole beer and the design as well, by I think local to them designer. So that's really, really cool. I think all the International Women's Day collaboration beers that have come out this year have been really impressive. I'm obviously going to be a bit biased because there's one of them is a Crafty Beer Girls one, but we've got in the collaboration pale ale by Cloudwater as well in the shop, which is, I'm going to try and model it. Really delicious. It's called Astonish and Mean Wild with Acts of Kindness. Sorry, trying to show you. It's the artwork's designed by Diane Tanner, who's amazing. She used to work in beer in London, but now is up in Manchester. And yeah, that's really great. That's a pale ale that was brewed, as well as the stout, which is the Crafty Beer Girls collaboration. And yeah, I'm really impressed that Keeks, you got these both in. And artwork for this
That's
one
such
again.
a great label. I love that artwork.
Yeah,
It looks
so
really
nice.
good.
It's by Jodie May Kennedy, who's also a London beer gal. I think she's done a really great job with that. And the beer's another quote. Single act of kindness sends roots in all directions, which is Amelia Earhart quote. So I think, yeah, kind of feeling, women have smashed it this year with either the beers being really great, the artwork on the cans really lovely. I know that there's a lot of breweries that brewed on Monday. So some that you've mentioned, like Burnt Mill, Ruby Stark, Duration, Double Barreled. Yeah, so I think it's really exciting times, and I'm looking forward to having those beers come out and get to drink them when we can in person. So yeah, I think that sense of solidarity and women empowering women is really special. And one of the women that I think has really showed that to me is Yuri. You've been, you're fund development and sort of, covering all things HR at Mother Kelly's. And I really feel this past year must have been super difficult for you in your role. But you've been really great at resonating support, compassion, and positivity, which are, for me, it's part of your personality, but it's also these are themes which have surrounded the International Women's Collaboration Brew Day. So yeah, I feel like it's a perfect fit to bring this up, and I would like to put quite a, I guess it's maybe not tricky, but it's it could be not a weighted question. But do you have any sort of messages for women, to help them through this? How would you help them through this sort of tough year if they're in a similar role to you, or just anything of inspiration?
Big question, Tash. Thank you. Thanks for the compliment there. Yeah, you just dropped that one on me. Thank you. Thanks for the compliment. That's really kind of you to say. And sometimes, especially through the last year, you feel like you are just giving it everything you've got and it's not enough. And so to have just like a little bit of positive feedback here and there, it just means the world. And like you said, it's been a tough year for everybody. And really, although my job has been difficult and it's been stressful, and I've had to do some things that have been really hard, in the grand scheme of things, being able to keep my job and have that assurance has been a huge privilege, and I feel really fortunate to have that, and also to be, you know, working with such a lovely crew of people that have been so supportive during this time. Like, everybody's had their down days, and I think like we're all, you know, just working hard to try and like support each other and lift each other up and make sure that we kind of come through it as much in one piece as possible. I'm super grateful for that as well. But yeah, like I don't want to pretend that I've had it any harder than anybody else, because I certainly haven't. And yeah, there are a lot of people that I've spoken to, including members of staff, that have, you know, found this last year incredibly hard, unsurprisingly, because it has been really challenging. And yeah, like, all you can do is your best to try and just be a human being and be kind. Sometimes it's not so much about the job role, it's just about like looking after one another. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just checking in with each other and listening and making sure that people feel heard. Sometimes that's kind of the only thing you can do, because it's just so everything's just rubbish.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, back to question at hand. So what advice would I give? I think probably the most important thing that I have learned during my time in this position for Mother Kelly's is to be bold and to use my voice. And like, for the people that know me, they probably think that I wouldn't have an issue with that, because I like to talk and I can be quite challenging and, you know, confrontational in some situations. But I think when you're making business decisions and you are working alongside your peers, and also like the like higher level of management, like Nigel, the owner of the business, when you're having meetings with your boss, it's difficult sometimes to feel like you can speak up, because it's his business, it's, you know, it's his decision. What right do I have to say something? But I've learned the importance of speaking up, even if you're not sure how that will be met. Because I think even like people that lead need to have feedback, and they need to like be challenged on things sometimes, just to check where they're at. And Nigel and I have not always seen eye to eye. And I know that won't come as a surprise to you guys. But it's really important, I think, sometimes to just bring it up and work through it. And then, you know, by the time you get to the end, like the end of the decision-making process, that you've both, or that everybody involved has put all of their cards on the table. They've said everything that they need to say, and that the best possible decision will be made based on all of that information, instead of holding information back and feeling like it's not worth it, or like you don't have the power or the right to speak up. So I think the most important thing for me would be to just be bold. And if there's an elephant in the room, or you feel that someone isn't being represented, or that, you know, like there's a detail that's being missed, to vocalize it. And I think really, if it's taken badly, then, and you're made to feel like you shouldn't have contributed, then maybe the place that you're in is not the right place for you. And I think if it's welcomed and it's valued, then yeah, you're only ever going to gain respect and feel rewarded for doing what you did. So I would say that. I would also say, like, realizing that I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I like to get things right. And in this line of work, especially during the pandemic, we've all been put in a situation where we're having to deal with things that we've never had to deal with before, and there isn't a rule book and there's not a guidebook. And like, trying to navigate through it, I just feel like in hindsight, there are so many things that I would have chosen to spend more time on, or to have done slightly differently. And I do have some regrets from that, but I think having that hindsight is really good, because you can use that experience to make sure that your future decisions are made in a more educated, more well-rounded way. But also, like, it's important not to dwell on it. I think you've got to keep moving forward, and you may have made a mistake, but you're only human. Like, these things happen. And I think the best thing to do is just try and have the best intentions you can going into something. Try and educate yourself as much as you can, to listen as much as you can, and get as much understanding of the situation, and just go with like the best, the best option that you have in front of you. You're not always going to get it right, but I think that's just being a human being on this planet, isn't it? and yeah, like moving on from that point, like staying open-minded and to kind of keep listening to the people around you. Like the world's changing all the time, our culture's changing. This pandemic has changed the kind of face of hospitality potentially forever, and you know, we can't rest on our laurels and just think that the information that we've been going off so far is enough. You need to keep listening, we need to keep educating ourselves, and we need to keep like try and stay fresh as much as possible. And there's no amount of information I think will ever be enough, so just being curious is, yeah, I would say be curious as well would be my last bit of advice. Well, that was a ramble, wasn't it?
No, I think that really, you know, there's you've covered some really valid points. You know, it's you to be positive, and I think that's a really important take-home message. I also do agree with you. I think you know, work's going to be work. If it's not challenging, then I think most people would, you know, become stagnant in their role, and then you'd lose motivation eventually. So yeah, there will be challenges ahead in work, but I think, you know, the places where you'll stick around, the places where one will, you know, develop you know, greater skill sets, are the places where, you know, they are challenged, but they're also celebrated or championed when they succeed, and also they, you know, have the support for when they might not always succeed. And, you know, we're all human, we do make mistakes. I think it's really important to be there for each other when things do get tough, and but also be there when things are worth celebrating. And I think, you know, right now it's a really important time to be raising one another up, especially this week. But, you know, every day I think women should be supporting women. So I kind of want to pose a question to both of you, coming to Nika first. I think, you know, like, what sort of advice would you give to any sort of woman who's a little bit unsure or apprehensive about, you know, maybe trying a beer, buying a beer, or maybe, you know, if they want to get into the beer industry or hospitality industry, you know, what, you know, do you have any sort of nuggets of golden nuggets of advice for them? Yeah, I think it's always good to bring this up and talk out to those future women who might, you know, in a few days or few weeks or few years time be sat where we're sat.
Well, I mean, I think for any woman that's like, you know, is getting interested in beer and wants to, like, you know, try new beers and stuff like that, I'd say just you know, ask. Don't be afraid of asking, like not knowing about something, and just, you know, if there's a beer that's got like a, you know, an interesting name, and you're just like curious about it because of that, and then you can get to know more about it, just don't be afraid and just ask and try. That to try as many as you can. That would be my recommendation for them. And to any women that want to work in craft beer in general, like, you know, hospitality, I suppose, as well, would be the same in a way. Is just not to have any like prejudice. Like, it's not. It is seen as a very like male-dominated industry, and, you know, to an extent, like, that might be true. It was maybe true, but I think that, like, there's been so many women that worked so hard towards changing this, and so many men contributed to this as well. Like, it was a process that was like they were all part of, in a way, and we still are. So just not to have like to make the mind up before even trying, if that makes sense, you know. And because, you know, in my experience, like, I found it incredible. Like, I found it, like, the craft beer industry in itself, like, it's full of really great people, and they're all really friendly. It's all really, you know, it's sharing like an interest and a passion for something that, you know, puts us all together. So I definitely recommend everybody to try.
Yeah, that's it's definitely, I feel like beer is a social lubricant. It should bring people together more than anything. It shouldn't drive people apart. So yeah, totally agree with that. And yeah, Reid, the same question to you, if that's okay.
Yes, that's okay. I feel like Kiki pretty much nailed it with her answer. That was a great answer. Yeah, like, me, I would say get yourself a little shopping bag, take yourself to your nearest independent bottle shop and just have a look at the shelves. If you see something that takes your fancy, buy it, take it home, try it. If you feel brave enough, ask the person in the shop for their recommendations, or if you don't know what a word or, you know, a description on a beer means, like the people in the shop, especially the smaller independent shops, they're usually so knowledgeable and so friendly. Like, hopefully it'll be a really welcoming environment. And I would just say, like, if you don't know, ask. And if you're too afraid to ask, take it home and Google it. And if you don't know what the words mean, just buy some cans with labels on that you like. Like, even the biggest beer experts all buy products because they're pretty sometimes. Like, it just happens. And it's okay. If the branding's good and you think, oh, that looks great, I want to try that, then just try it. And yeah, like Kiki said, like, the more you try, the more you'll understand what you like and which breweries you favor, and yeah, the styles that you prefer. And I think it's just going to be like, it's one beer at a time, isn't it? If you're working in the beer industry, you know, I had a whole bunch of hospitality experience before I started working for Mother Kelly's, but it wasn't in craft beer. It was more in kind of a cocktail bar, like a, you know, just standard bar. And when I started at Mother Kelly's, I really didn't know anything about the craft beer industry, and I was working just a couple of days a week. And my biggest education came from the bartenders that were working alongside me, who were just fountains of knowledge, but then also the regular customers that would just perch on the bar. And, you know, they'd, back in the day before coronavirus, they'd let you taste some of their beer and be like, try this. Or, you know, or I had customers, like in my first week, I had like 2 or 3 customers that literally walked me over, because we've got fridges along the side of the bar with lots of bottles and cans in. And they were asking me if I'd tried anything. And they were literally wanting to educate me, even though I was working and they were not. So, okay, let me tell you a thing or two about what you need to try in these fridges. This is a classic. This is great. Don't try that. This is delicious. And it's just so easy to strike up a conversation about such a great product because people are so excited about it. And I think, like, if you're brave enough to talk to people and be open, like Kiki says, everybody's super welcoming. And like, as a novice in the craft beer industry and also as a woman, I have to say I feel really fortunate. I haven't experienced any sexism or felt like I've been kind of outcast from any kind of conversation from not having the knowledge that maybe other people have. It's always been encouraging, and it's always been like, oh, if you don't know that, let me explain it to you, let me show you, let me teach you, like, try this. Oh, you don't know the brewing process, oh, why don't you come for a brewing day at my brewery? You know, like, it's so open. It's just like a really encouraging community, and it's really been a pleasure to be a part of. So I'm rambling again, but yeah, take yourself to a beer shop and buy the beers that look good and try them. First step.
That's solid advice, and I think you've brought up something which is, you know, really valid. I know we have a really close relationship with all of our, you know, suppliers and the breweries we work with. I would think, you know, I feel there have been a couple that have come in social distance to sort of help get, you know, move stuff or bring equipment, and they've just been like, I've radiated such friendliness, as if, you know, they're part of the family. So I definitely feel that when things get back to normal, we'll be able to sort of really get back to hanging out with some really good friends, which are also just, you know, the people we buy beer off. Something which I wanted to bring up, since Roxy,
Gosh, can I like jump in on you just for like a second?
Go ahead. Yeah, that's cool.
Sorry to interrupt. What I would also say, like, you just reminded me of something you said just then. I know that I've just said that I've felt completely comfortable in the industry and that I haven't felt any sexism, but I, like Kiki touched on earlier, I know that there are lots of women that feel a little bit like wary of coming into an industry that does appear in some ways to be male dominated. And although I would say that it's not so much the case anymore, there are so many ways of reaching out to women within the industry and kind of creating community, becoming part of that female community as well. And I think if it's something that's worrying you, a little plug for you, Tash. Tash has set up the Crafty Beer Girls, which is an all-women community where women support each other in the craft beer industry and just celebrate everything craft beer with each other. They have, is it every month that you meet up?
Yeah, so it was last night, so the second Wednesday of every month. We try to meet up. Before COVID, it was in person, and now it's via Zoom. So yeah, it can be like between 10 and 30 women joining in on a Zoom call at the moment, sharing a beer. Last night was really good. Yeah, it's a highlight of my months, actually. Yeah, but thanks for plugging it. So, you know, I think,
Crafty Beer Girls, it's a great first step.
but yeah, like we said, I think, you know, community is key. And there's, you know, there might be your local bottle shop might have a, you know, bottle share night back in the day when you could do that. But that, you know, all these things are going to come back again, hopefully. What I wanted to say was, you know, Roxy, she's one of the other girls who works for Mother Kelly's, but she can't be on this call with us tonight because she's in the shop, working.
I think she's watching.
Yeah, working hard. But I did still want to have an opportunity for her to share her perspectives and opinions because, you know, she's been doing a great job, you know, holding the shop, which hasn't closed at all through this period. I've just got like a little statement here from her. She was saying how, like, you know, the strong local beer community, particularly in Stokey, is something that, you know, is something that she really appreciates, and that she's found that she's getting told every day, day in and day out, how nice it is to come into the shop and get draft beer or to get like new releases, and have a little chat whilst they're there. And this is, you know, in relation to the customers, and how like these small things help make this period a little bit more normal. And that's like brought her a lot of joy. And I think, you know, that sense of community does bring people joy. And I think that sense of community, that connection, is helping us stay sane, even though, you know, we've all got all these restrictions. London's experiencing its third lockdown. But also at the same time, I think all these little appreciations we've collected, as well as all the, you know, mistakes we've learned from, and all the things we've, you know, been like, hey, we've done this right. I think we need to like collect them and carry them forward as things do get normal, and not forget about this period in time. So I think that brings me to, I guess, one of the last question, but it's quite a big one. So as the world reopens and we move slowly forward to a normal life, I think there's going to be quite a lot to celebrate, you know, getting back to business, enjoying a pint. Oh, Roxy, sorry, just add this.
What's she saying? Oh.
Yeah, so, you know, get to celebrate a pint in our favourite places, get to share a meal, you know, visit spots in groups which are larger than a household. I think there is going to be a lot to celebrate, but I also feel it's really important to not forget what we've learned over this period. So I guess my question to you both is, what do you think? Like, what should we be doing? What do you expect, or what would you want to see in the future as we come out of lockdown and as things normalize, and as you know, businesses get back to it? And yeah, I think personally, I have a concern that people aren't so used to engaging with one another, and they won't know how to kind of, you know, relate or react in big groups. And I think I want people to be, you know, kind moving through that. So that's something I've been thinking about. Yeah, what would you guys suggest would be important?
I don't know, I guess, you know, for as much as it's been like a really difficult time that we all lived collectively, I think that, like, because of the changes that we had to make to like our lives, like in so many ways, there have been like some benefits as well, and like some things have like changed like for good, for the good. So I think that maybe the one thing that's, you know, that I'd like to see after this pandemic, like I'd like for the world to recover as soon as possible, because it is just like, it's become really difficult to deal with it as we go along. It's just too much. I can't believe it's been a year already. Yeah. It's crazy. It felt like 10, but then at the same time, it feels like nothing really happened. and it changed our perspective and like our like perception of, like as you said, of the other, like so much that I just hope that, like, yeah, we just, you know, like keep the good, like keep the good things that came out of it. The fact that, you know, like our impact on the environment completely changed, and like we can see the results already that really tell us like that we can live in a better world, that we can do better, and we just have to believe in the possibility of a change. Even though, like, you know, this in this particular occasion it was in time or whatever, like it was forced to us, we had to do it. But in the future, instead, we can work towards that change, and we can just make things better, like for ourselves, for the planet.
It's a really good point. And I think, you know, that kind of reminds me of something that I've, you know, been working on, kind of taking this time where we're not open to look at aspects of the business which maybe we didn't have the time to focus on. So I know we've rejigged our environmental policy. I know we've like looked at sort of, you know, initiatives like Everyone's Welcome, and just sort of, you know, done the work whilst we weren't able to trade normally, so that, you know, when we come out of this, we can really hit the road running. Yeah, I am really, really looking forward to that time. And got another comment. I'm imagining all these people you know very well.
Hola, Esther.
Out there. Yeah, Ree, can I pitch the same question to you? Do you have any thoughts to add on to Kiki's, which is, you know, great comments, and or do you have any of your own that you want to share?
I mean, Kiki's basically just nailing the answers tonight. So, yeah. Really nice.
You should have said all of my answers before me. I mean, you know what? That's true. That at least we agree.
But yeah, so it's like you said something a second ago, and actually, like at the beginning of our chat, you're talking about this kind of almost like a hibernation period, and I think it's, although this maybe doesn't directly tie into my answer, like Kiki's right, there's a lot of positives that can come out of this, and I think we've all had a lot of time to reflect on our personal lives and to make big decisions about things like positive change, like living healthier lifestyles, you know, making positive environmental impact, and yeah, like just taking the time away from, you know, when we're open and when we're trading as a company, there's always this kind of slight element of chaos where we're just kind of dashing from one thing to the next, just trying to, you know, like get through this huge amount of work that we all have to do, like not just HQ, but like the managers and the teams included. And this kind of like break from service has been awful in so many ways. And obviously I wouldn't want to say that it's been a completely positive experience for anybody, but you know, there has to be a silver lining that comes out of these things, and the silver lining for us is that we've done a shitload of planning and kind of gotten around to all of the stuff that was always at the bottom of the list, to really like make quite fundamental improvements in the company. And I'm really excited to see those play out once we start trading again. I think it should be a lot more enjoyable and easier for the managers to navigate the kind of systems in place, and just the business hopefully will run in a more efficient way than it did before. So I'm kind of, if I'm grateful in any way for, you know, this past year, that would be one of the things I would say. But anyway, what change do I want to see? I think that everybody has been, we've all had our freedoms like removed over the last year, and you know, we haven't been allowed to see our friends and family, haven't been allowed to leave the house, haven't been able to go to the shops, you know, like there have been so many aspects of normal life that we just totally took for granted that have been taken away from us, and it's really massively affected everybody and everyone's mental health. And I like, when I talk to my friends and my family and my colleagues about what they miss, what freedoms they miss the most. It's so interesting and so funny, in a way that, well, not funny, but it makes me smile, that one of the biggest things that, one of the most common answers that I hear is people are missing the pub. And it seems like something that's really small, and that shouldn't be the most important thing, but really what the pub means and what bars and cafes and restaurants mean to us, especially in the UK, because the weather's always a bit dodgy, is you've got that place to come together and connect with each other. And I think when that's taken out of the mix, it's amazing how quickly you feel isolated. And we've been taking it for granted, all of us, me included, that the pub's always going to be there and restaurants and cafes are always going to be there. And I think, first of all, through the pandemic, when they had to close, we were missing them. But second of all, the length of time that those businesses have been closed for, we've lost a huge amount of that presence on the high street, which is absolutely heartbreaking. And I know that there'll be a kind of regeneration and that there'll be new businesses like blooming and coming around, but it doesn't stop the kind of terrible mess that has happened to a lot of our friends in the industry, which, you know, it's kind of, yeah, it's heartbreaking. But I really hope the change that I want to see really is, and for myself included, is that we kind of stop taking the hospitality industry for granted, because it's really important. It's an integral part of all of our lives, and we just pretend like it's a given, like it's always going to be there. And I think if we don't look after it and protect it, it won't be. And you know, like, the government need to take this industry more seriously, and I think the public and we in the industry need to take it more seriously as well, for what it provides to the customers, but then also what it provides to the people working within it. And I think, you know, you look at countries like Australia, and the hospitality industry is taken so seriously over there. It's just as seriously as any other career choice. And I would love for us to reach that point where you know, you tell someone that you're working in a bar, and they don't ask you what else you're doing or what's next, or, you know, like, it would be lovely for you to be able to say that to someone and then be like, great, good for you. And also for that wage to be a wage that you can really comfortably live off. And I think that change is coming, and with the introduction of London Living Wage and everything, it's been fantastic to see that roll out. But I really love, over the next few years, for the hospitality industry to be lifted up and be celebrated more and taken a bit more seriously as an industry, because it does provide so much. The end.
Well, that's really great, and I do think like that's something that we've you know, you've collaborated with me, Nike, you've had input to. Nigel's obviously had massive input in the open letters we've written to the government, kind of calling them out and saying, hey, like, hospitality is not just an industry that contributes so much to our economy, it's people's profession. And I think, you know, people, you know, everyone, you know, those on the other side of the bar, central government, and just, you know, everyone just needs to kind of really accept that hospitality is a profession. I don't see myself, I don't want to work in anything else. You know, I want to work in beer, and I'm committed to that. And I feel very much that you both have that same sentiment. And I don't think our efforts and our passion and our, you know, our want and our appreciation and, you know, care for the industry. And I love serving people. I still, you know, did a couple of shifts over the pandemic at the shop. Those were also highlights, like being able to serve people at the like lowest point of the nation's, you know, history. I think that I would live through. That was a really nice time. Everyone was so welcoming to me, and I think, you know, what you said is completely correct. We need people to take that, not to take that for granted. So yeah, that's really poignant, and I think it's a perfect place to end, unless either of you have anything more to say. You've had a lot of fans and friends listening.
I wouldn't mind saying just like one little thing. I think, like, thanks. This last week has been a really crazy week for the UK, and I've absolutely loved seeing and like celebrating International Women's Day, but it's also been tainted with quite a lot of sadness and darkness. And I just think like now's the time more than ever for all of us to just put aside our differences, whether it's male female divide or, you know, like you're a working relationship or anything. I think it's like there are so many other things that are more important, and I think supporting one another and being kind to one another is just such a poignant thing right now. And you know, I'd really just like to encourage anyone that's listening to, you know, give us somewhat, you know, like just to be kind to the people around you. You don't know what they're going through, and to look out for one another, because like everyone's had a really tough time, and this week's just been a kind of has had some high points, but there's been some cruel blows. And you know, it's not about tearing each other down or tearing each other apart. It's about lifting each other up and just making each other feel supported and loved, I think. And that's something that I feel really grateful for, to be working with you two, because I always feel that, and I kind of would like that for everybody, really.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my last bit.
Yeah, I said that I wasn't going to get all mushy on camera, so that's a good bit. But yeah, I have a lot of time for both of you, and I really appreciate you tuning in to chat. It's something we have not spoken across a screen before, so we've always been socially distant, face to face. But yes, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for all the comments, and thanks for listening to us. And I know from the bottom of all of our hearts, we are looking forward to welcoming you back when we can. The N16 Bottle Shop.
Hopefully soon.
Yes. The N16 Bottle Shop is the only place open at the moment, but we've also got the shop running 24/7. So little plug to where you can get some MK beer stock. Okay, lots of love, guys. Take care, look after yourselves, and like we said, be super kind to one another.
Ciao.
Bye. See ya.